Kia ora. How much to dilute? Now, if you are given a concentrated acid, which you must titrate against a standardized base, which is much more dilute, you will need to dilute that concentrated acid in order to get similar volumes to the base. So how much do you know to dilute it by? And this is done by a trial. So you would take something like a drop in a pipette, and then you would suck up some of that base and transfer it over to the acid. And you would keep on doing this until the color changes to show that all the concentrated acid has been neutralized, because we've actually put an indicator in there that'll change color when it's neutralized. So we know that 5 milliliters of base in this particular case has neutralized the acid in our 1 ml of concentrated acid that we used. So that means we need to take this acid and dilute it 5 times to get similar volumes. The reasons why we need similar volumes is to minimize errors, and that's in another video. So if we have to make 250 milliliters of this concentrated acid that's now going to be diluted, how do we do this? So we want to make 250 milliliters, but we have to dilute it 5 times because we had 5 lots of base for every 1 milliliter of acid. So 250 divided by 5 is 50. So I take a 50 milliliter pipette, then I can transfer exactly 50.0 of that concentrated acid, transfer it into a volumetric flask, and make it up to the mark with deionized or distilled water. So I have diluted now my acid 5 times. Here's another example. What happens if 8 milliliters of base is needed for every 1 milliliter of acid? So I take my 250 and divide it by 8, and I get 31 milliliters. So I have 2 options now, one which is good and the other one not good. I can take 25 ml pipette and transfer exactly 25 milliliters and make it up to the mark as before. But it does mean now that my acid is going to be a little bit more dilute than normal because I only did 25 instead of 31, which means I'm going to need less base. So for every 25 milliliters of this diluted acid solution, if I titrate it, I'm only going to need about 20 mils of base. The other option is if I used a 10 ml and a 20 ml pipette to try and get 30 mils. But whenever for every measurement you do, you're introducing errors because you may not read the meniscus correctly. The meniscus might be slightly above or below the mark on the pipette. A pipette could be dirty or anything. So the more you do, the more errors could occur. So the golden rule of thumb is to try and pipette only once. And a 25 to 20 ratio is fine. So last example, what happens if I need 11 milliliters of base to neutralize my 1 milliliter of acid? So again, 250 divided by 11 is 22.7. So I have 2 options. Both are fine. I can take a 25 milliliter pipette. 25 is nice because 25 is 1/10 of 250. So it's very easy to correlate back again. It's just a factor of 10. So I can take my 25 milliliter pipette and transfer 25 moles across. That means my diluted acid is a little bit more concentrated than my base. So I'm going to need a little bit more of base to neutralize the 25 moles of acid that I might pipette. Or I could use a 20 ml pipette. And that means because 20 is slightly less than 22, it means my acid solution I then make with a 20 ml pipette is more dilute, so I would be using less base, around about 21 or 22. I haven't put the calculation here. So that is how you would do a trial, and you would make up then your diluted solution ready for your titration. Kia ora.